Welcome to the Autism Mom Coach podcast. I am your host, Lisa Candera. I am a lawyer, a life coach, and most importantly, I am the full-time single mother of a teenager with autism. In this podcast, I am going to share with you the tools and strategies you need so you can fight like hell for your child without burning out. Let's get to it. You are listening to Autism Mom Coach, the Expectation Trap, Part 1. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the podcast. I am so glad you are here, and I hope you are doing well. For the last 2 new episodes of 2025, I want to address something that I really see people struggling with this time of the year. And when I distill it all down to just one word, it is expectations. The expectations we have about ourselves, our lives, and most usually other people and how they should be conducting their lives. Now, while this is an issue that comes up every day, all times of the year, it really seems to come to a head at this time of the year when families are getting together, people have different traditions, families have different needs, and you see all of these different expectations colliding. This episode was actually inspired by 2 of my clients who came to me with an issue about the holidays. One client was really frustrated because the family decided to move Thanksgiving Day dinner from grandmom's house to the sister-in-law's house. Now, they live in the relatively the same area, but her 9-year-old child with autism is really glued to going to grandmom's house. They finally got him in the last 2 years to really get into the groove of going to grandmom's house, the food they would bring, the little away time he would have in, a separate bedroom when he got overwhelmed. They had a good system going. And in my client's view, that should be the thing that determines really that they stay at grandmom's. Not just that they've been doing it for a long time, but that this really works for her son with autism. And he's the only child in the family that has these special needs. And so she's really frustrated. Her expectations about the consideration that should be given to her, that should be given to her child. She wasn't involved in this discussion, and her expectation would be that she would be involved in the discussion about changing where Thanksgiving happens. So that is situation number 1. Another client is pretty frustrated because her mother-in-law is going to be in town for Christmas Day, which is fine. But grandma wants to come to the house on Christmas morning and watch the kids open the presents. Now, yes, this sounds lovely and sweet, but for my client, she really just wants to have this time to herself with her husband and her kids to enjoy that moment without grandma and grandpa, because they just add another layer that in that moment, my client doesn't want to have to deal with. But grandma has the expectation hey, I'm the one traveling here for Christmas, getting on a plane. The least I should be able to do is watch the grandkids open the presents. And my client has a different expectation of how that would look. So these are just a couple of the examples of the ways that people's expectations just rise up this time of the year. So that's why I want to take a deeper dive into what expectations are, where they come from, and how they can impact us if we're not really clear on what's happening. So first, what are expectations? The lawyer in me always goes straight to definitions. And the Oxford Dictionary defines expectations as a belief that something will happen because it is likely. It's kind of a circular definition. So let's break it apart a bit. What makes something likely to happen? What makes an expectation that something will happen reasonable? So I think that there are a number of ways to look at this. There are some expectations or beliefs that we have that a thing is likely to happen based on structure, things like schedules or contracts, maybe even cultural norms. So just to give you an example, I have the expectation that my trash will be removed on Tuesday morning. because that is the schedule that our town has, and that's what's been happening since I've gotten here. That expectation isn't based on really anything other than the town schedule. I have an expectation that if I were to go to Whole Foods at 4 o'clock in the afternoon on a Tuesday, that it would be open based on their hours of operation. Okay. So you see that there's some other structure that is influencing why my belief and why I think this is likely. And in fact, why it is likely. In this case, the expectation is grounded in something that's tangible, that is outside of me. And so, in that respect, it is likely to happen, right? Unless something goes wrong, it is likely to happen. Other examples of expectations based on structure would be expectations based on a contract. And so perhaps you were hired by a school district to be a teacher and you have a contract for a year, and that contract sets forth your requirements as a teacher. So your employer would expect you to come to work certain days. They would expect you to call out if you weren't going to be at work, things like that. Other types of structure that creates expectation would be our IEPs, right? Our IEPs for our children say certain things, that they get speech, say 3 times a week. And so our expectation that they will get that speech 3 times a week is based on that agreement. All right, so that is the first source of expectations and what would make an expectation or the belief that something is going to happen likely. There is a structure, there is a schedule, there is something that we could all agree upon that exists outside of us that would dictate that. Second, expectations come from pattern and practice. So in this situation, there is no document that dictates that every Thanksgiving, I will get my child at 4 p.m. and drop him off to dad at 8 p.m. But the fact that we've been doing it for 10 years does. Pattern and practice. And in fact, and this is honestly just not to get so technical and legal, our agreement might say that I get my son on the odd years, but our pattern and practice for 10 years has been that we divide the day up. And so this is a source of expectations, a belief that something will happen because it's likely to happen. Another example of pattern and practice is, for me, for the past year, my son calls me at 7:30 p.m. every evening, except for Wednesdays, because on Wednesdays he calls at 8 because he knows that I have my group phone call for my coaching program. Pattern and practice. There is no, again, contract that says that that will happen. It's just what we have been doing. And so just thinking about this in your own life, what expectations do you have based on pattern and practice? Maybe it's that you put the trash out and your significant other brings it in. Maybe it's that you load the dishwasher and somebody else empties it. And if I'm giving these examples and you're thinking, oh, I wish, then I'm with you. I hear you. I just do both of them. Okay. No one to share it with, but that's okay. The idea here is that we all have things in our life, an expectation that is based on what we've been doing or what has been done for a while. And this pattern and practice goes back to my client example of, well, Thanksgiving should be at grandma's house because it has been for the past however many years, right? There is no family agreement or contract that says that this will happen, but this has been what has been happening. So the expectation that it would and that it's likely to happen is, reasonable from that perspective. And then finally, we have the expectations that are not tied to any formal agreement or structure, and maybe not even a pattern or practice. These are the expectations that we have of other people that are based on how we believe that they should act in this certain situation. And the way that we believe that they should act in any situation is based on what our own values, standards, motivations, all of that, all of our stuff, we are projecting that onto someone else. And our expectation is that they will do what we think that they should do because that is the way we would do it. This category of expectations is where a lot of tension and conflict is created. It's created for us personally, and it's created in our relationships. This category of expectations is where a lot of conflict and resentment and frustration comes from in our relationships with other people. We have beliefs about how we think they should act. They don't do it because they're not us. And then we get frustrated or resentful, or maybe we just get this feeling of moral superiority because we would have done it differently. Now, the problem with these types of expectations is that you, me, we are not the baseline. We are not the template from which other people are supposed to operate and live their lives. And when you're having the thought, well, if it were me, what you're doing there is saying that if this person adhered to all of the things that I believe for the reasons that I believe them and acted in the way that I think that they should act in this moment, then, okay, that's not what's happening here. You are not the template. Your way of thinking about things or doing things is not necessarily the right one either, right? In the scheme of there are a lot of different people in this world with a lot of different views and a lot of different opinions. And you, in any situation, but especially those with your, closer family members, like the people in your life where it matters, you are not the baseline for how they should behave. So examples of where we get into this are things like, thinking that your mother-in-law shouldn't expect to come over for Christmas because you would never impose on someone else. Thinking that your friends should like all of your posts because you like all of theirs. Thinking that your significant other should keep their ringer on in case you call them because you keep your ringer on for them and you just think that that is the responsible and courteous thing to do. These are all examples of you imposing your standards, your motivations, your values, whatever it is, onto other people and then feeling away when they don't comply to rules that they never agreed to. So just think about all of the areas in your life where you have an expectation about how other people should operate. And when they don't, it causes you some aggravation or really even feelings of disconnection with other people. There's probably more than a few areas of your life where you believe that people should operate differently based on your values and your standards and your motivations and your judgment, and they don't, and you feel a way about it. The problem with this, in addition to the fact that you, me, we're not the queens of the world, we do not get to decide how other people behave or how they should behave. We are not the baseline. In addition, when you do that, when you have expectations of other people based on whatever your beliefs, values, motivations, standards are, you are tying your emotions to something you cannot control. You are tying whether you feel frustrated or happy or valued to whether another human who you can't control does something a certain way, believes something in the way that you do, operates in the way that you do. And when you are living life like this, you are always tethered to other people and their actions in order to know how you are going to feel in any given moment. And that sucks. And while the idea that you're not the baseline and your ways of doing things, no matter how reasonable you think they are, no matter how many people in your echo chamber agree with you, you're not the baseline. That can be a really tough pill to swallow, but once you do, it is so freeing. It is so freeing to untether yourself and how you feel from the way other human beings operate. When you do that, you just regain so much of your own time and your energy. And frankly, you have the opportunity to make decisions about the now what from a cleaner place, not a place of they should be a certain way and they're not, but from a place of here's how I operate, here's what I like, here are my values. This person doesn't do this or comply with this. Now what? Okay. But when you're doing that, you're not doing it from a judgmental place of, you're superior to them, or they have, hurt you, or they have disrespected you. You're doing it from a place of recognizing that your way of doing things is not the baseline for other people. Now, in next week's episode, we are going to go deeper into the and now what. But for right now, for this week, I want you to start to grow your own awareness of your expectations, specifically your expectations of other people. And I want you to be able to see where those expectations are coming from. Is the expectation coming from some sort of structure or contract? Is the expectation coming from a pattern and practice? Or is the expectation coming from how you believe other people should be, how you believe you would operate in a certain situation, from your own values, from your own standards, from your own fear of rejection, from your own fear of failure or of being left out? Where are your expectations coming from? And once you're able to do that, you can really start to decide, is this an expectation that is serving me? Is it creating more tension in my life? Is it creating less connection? Once you're able to identify those expectations and the impact they are having, you get to decide, do you want to let it go? Do you want to make an adjustment? Or 3, do you want to create or enforce a boundary? And that is what we will talk about in next week's episode. But for right now, I want you to take a look inward at your own expectations of other people, of situations, how they show up, and where is that expectation coming from. And in the event that that expectation is not coming from some sort of structure or contract or a pattern and practice, it really is going to be an opportunity for you to examine, am I imposing beliefs or values that I have on another person? And is this serving me? Is this serving our relationship? All right, everyone, that is it for this week's episode of the podcast. We will talk about part 2 of the expectation trap next week. Have a great week. Thanks for listening to the Autism Mom Coach. If you are ready to apply the principles you are learning in these episodes to your life, it is time to schedule a consultation call with me. Podcasts are great, but the ahas are fleeting. Real change comes from application and implementation, and this is exactly what we do in my one-on-one coaching program. To schedule your consultation, go to my website, theautismmomcoach.com, work with me, and take the first step to taking better care of yourself so that you can show up as the parent you want to be for your child with autism.